Thus, the metaphor of construction of the Holy Temple in this passage evokes the phenomenon of organic growth as opposed to heavy construction. It's most unfortunate that in the current age, that imagery has been reversed, and now people try to build churches rather than grow people. The mentality now has changed. We don't recognize the fact that people are individuals, that people are supposed to be individuals, that they're not necessarily going to grow at the same rate, they're not necessarily going to come out looking the same way. The miracle of the work of God, the miracle of Christ, is that we can take several individual, distinct people with strengths and weaknesses that are different, and that they can all grow together in God into a community, and what comes out looks like God in some way, shape, or form, represents who God is in some way when it's grown together. But a lot of times what you have are churches, especially in spiritually abusive systems or spiritually abusive cultures, that are interested in forcing you into a mold so you fit within the building that already exists. Because they're trying to build a church, they're just trying to get people in the door, and once they got them in the door, or they got a foot in the door, they try to get them to start to comply with the traditions that have already been established. They try to get them to act a specific way, wear a specific type of clothing, speak a certain way, have a certain personality and disposition, don't get too worked up, don't be too timid, fit with what already exists, rather than trying to grow and allow for the natural organic development. It's a much different process, and it goes back to the shepherding idea. It goes back to the idea that what God grants authority for is the reason God grants man authority is so that way they can develop, care for, and allow for the development of an individual. And so that reflects back on, or is an expansion of what we began to deal with last week. Now, something that was asked earlier was, if God gives you authority, tells you to do something, does that automatically mean he authorizes you to do it? And the answer is yes. God's not going to tell you to do something that he has not authorized you to do. But it becomes a question of timing, and because the fact that he tells you to do something, that you're supposed to do something, or that you're going to do something, doesn't necessarily mean it's supposed to be done now. Also, just because he authorizes you to be able to execute a plan doesn't always mean that the plan is supposed to succeed right then and there. The Bible is replete with individuals who were tasked with specific tasks, and it wasn't going to work. It wasn't supposed to work. As a matter of fact, in the book of Ezekiel, when you look at the call of Ezekiel in the 2nd chapter or in the 3rd chapter, he tells Ezekiel, I want you to go tell the nation of Israel something, but they're not going to listen to you. I want you to go and proclaim whatever it is that I'm showing you, whatever I'm telling you, you go tell them. But those folks are stubborn. And when God calls you stubborn, you shouldn't have stubborn. But those folks are stubborn, they're not going to listen to you, they're not going to care about anything you have to say, go tell them anyway. So sometimes God authorizes you to do something, but the fact that it doesn't work doesn't mean that you weren't authorized. But Ezekiel had to go through a massive transformation just to be able to carry that out. The other thing is that sometimes the point of the exercise is not for you to succeed as we tend to define success. Sometimes he will give you a task because he needs you to develop experience. And that's a tough thing to know, and it's a hard lesson to be able to reflect back on, but everything that God gives you to do isn't necessarily supposed to happen and give you what you think is a success story. Sometimes you're supposed to go, you're supposed to do, it's going to fall apart at some point in time. God knows it's going to fall apart, but the objective is to get you experience and develop you because he has something else further up the road. And actually, he takes people through a lot of those steps. The road to success is paved with a million different failures. Thomas Edison failed to make the light bulb 1,000 different times. He said, no, actually, I didn't fail. I just learned 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. Eventually, God gets you the experience that you need because he knows what's further up the road. And so you've been authorized to do something, You've been given the authority to do something, but it may not work out the way you think it is. But God knows what He's doing.